are in the right room as we begin to introduce our next speaker. Those of you who have been with me before, you know what I want you to do. What I want you to do is start clapping for our speaker right now. Everybody, do it!
That's a tough act to follow. Thank you. As mentioned, I'm Katie Robbert. This is How to Assess Your AI Readiness 5 Considerations for Businesses. How many of you came here hoping to learn about artificial intelligence for your business? Yes. How many of you are overwhelmed by the amount of information you're getting? Yes. You are in the right place. So, this is why you're here. You're overwhelmed. This is who I am. Guess what? I'm also overwhelmed. The reason I say that, because what's not in here, how many of you went to Chris Penn's large learning model session yesterday? Chris Penn is my co-founder. I am overwhelmed every single day of my life. Every day. So you're in good company. And much like with Chris's session, you can go to willtheslidesbeavailable.com and get a copy of this slides. He has where can I get the slides, and I have will the slides be available. This is how you know we work together. So, I want to give a little bit of a situation analysis. So we all know we're overwhelmed. I have just told you my not-so-secret secret that I am overwhelmed. When I'm overwhelmed, my other not-so-secret secrets is that I love to set boundaries, and I love to say no. Front row knows what I'm talking about. I love to say no. And what happens when we're faced with change is that if we're overwhelmed and we love to say no and set boundaries, we immediately dig in our heels and we're like, I'm not gonna do this. I don't have time to do this. It's just too much right now. Someone else will figure it out for me, or it's just not my thing. And then we start to see conversations like this, like I saw on Threads, and we start to panic. And we see people saying, well, we just want to put AI in everything. And then people responding like, yeah, I think my CEO is having an existential crisis and wants me to put AI in everything. And that's when we really, really start to panic. But a little bit of a reality check. From the latest CMO survey, which came out last fall, we can see that the way people are using generative AI, they're creating blogs, they're creating content. It's all in the word generation. But with that, even more, less than 1% have been using it for a year. So I say this because you're all in good company. You have people like Chris Penn who have been doing it for over a decade, and he's the one who's making us all panic. So thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
So in order to really wrap your arms around what we're doing, I just want to give you sort of a baseline of what generative AI is. And this is the way that I've been able to remember it, because I can't remember all the big terms. I can't remember all of, the scientific things. But what I can remember is fog, because it's very representative of what happens in my brain. Artificial intelligence is comprised of three main components: regression, classification, and generation. Or, as I like to call them, find, organize, and generate. So you have to find things first. Think about cooking. First, you have to find all of your ingredients. You have to gather them from the backs of your cupboards. You have to go to the store. You have to find the spoons and the forks and all the things. So you have to find everything first, because without that, the rest of it doesn't matter. Once you found everything, you can move on to classification or organizing. So maybe you separate your hot and your cold ingredients, your wet and your dry, your steel bowls, your stainless steel, your cast irons, you turn on the oven, you do all the things. So you're getting organized. Artificial intelligence very much needs the same thing. It needs to classify all of the information you've already gathered. And then, and only then, can you get to the third step, which is generate. That's where we're all at right now. So it's not that we collectively are bypassing the first two steps, but the systems that are out there now are doing this for us. So we're only focused on generate. But I wanted us to all have the same collective understanding of what artificial intelligence is as a whole. And with that, there are 6 classifications of use cases of generative AI. And we'll be going through all of them in the application. So generative AI can do generation, it can do extraction, it can do summarization, it can do rewriting, classification, and question answering. You don't need to remember all of those right now. And then at a high level, what is generative AI good at? So it's really good at language. It's really good at communication, first drafts. It's really good at outlines. It's good at basic analysis, not deep dives, not gonna do your math for you. I'm really sorry, I tried, I failed. And I said to Chris, I'm like, why isn't this working? And he said, on the other side of the list, because generative AI is bad at math, which was mind-blowing to me. It's really good at translations, it's really good at summarization, and it's really good at predictive. It is not good at decision-making. This is where you come in. You, the human, still have to make decisions for it. It's basically giving you some information and saying, what do you want me to do? It's really bad at emotions. It is not a sentient thing. It is not, gonna start taking over. Don't listen to people who are saying that. It is not gonna take over everything. It's not thinking for itself. It doesn't have common sense. If you've ever used the ChatGPTs or any of the other systems, you find that it starts to kind of like get off the rails pretty quickly, and it's not checking itself. It doesn't have cultural sensitivity. I feel like I will just leave that one there. It just does not. It's not good at math, and it's not good at understanding bias. And so, a really good example is, Chris gave yesterday in his talk, if he used his Korean name versus his American name, would he get the exact same response? And the answer is probably not. So why are we panicking? Because there's a lot of information, but there's also a lot of studies coming out, a lot of articles coming out. You're seeing people saying, generative AI is going to take over the world, it's going to take all of our jobs, it's going to do this, that, and there's a lot of fear-mongering. But what's actually happening is that we're buying into these myths. So the myth number one is that if we don't use AI, we're all going to fall behind. The reality is that only a small section of us have actually started to adopt generative AI. And so you can see this 23% says marketers. That's marketers as a whole. We have email marketers, we have content marketers, we have social media marketers, we have marketing analysts. So if you think about those smaller segments of marketers, yes, we're adopting it, but not as fast as we're being led to believe. And in reality, there's a lot of issues with generative AI still. The lack of tools, the limited skills, it's why you're here, you're trying to learn. So these are not easy problems to solve. There's still a lot of human problems that are standing in the way of companies properly adopting generative AI. Myth number two, AI will take my job. I saw this maybe about 2 weeks ago. It was the CEO of Penguin Random House, and he was saying, hopefully AI will help, making it easier to publish more titles without ever having to hire employees. That's really disheartening, but it's also so short-sighted, and it's just not a well-thought-out strategy because, yes, generative AI is good at writing, but as we've seen from all of the other keynotes and presentations, you still need that human element, and he's not factoring that in at all. And so a lot of companies are making big layoffs, they're making really fast decisions to say, we don't need writers anymore, generative AI can do it. In reality, marketing, especially content and social media, are reliant on trust with their audience. We saw this morning in Anne's keynote presentation, that you have to have trust between you and the person who is taking in the content that you're giving. Generative AI will not give you that right now. People can very quickly figure out if they're being BS'd, essentially. And generative AI has no emotion. It doesn't have decision making. It doesn't have sensitivity. Those are all the things that you as a human bring to the table that generative AI is never going to replace. And lastly, the myth that we're being fed, it's gonna boost morale. But in actuality, that one might be true. Because what generative AI is gonna do, it's gonna take the tasks that we really hate, all of the admin, all of the things that just take forever and we do repeat it over and over and over again. So it may actually boost morale, and it's actually kind of fun to use. So what happens if implementation of AI goes wrong? Because you're probably thinking, well, I used ChatGPT just the other day and everything was cool, right? Yeah. No. No. Don't do it. Mass hysteria. I'm kidding. You knew I was kidding. I knew I was kidding, I think. But there are consequences. So what I want to do in today's presentation is give you a framework that walks you through how to approach it in a very thoughtful way. So what really happens if you implement tech wrong? So at the end of the day, generative AI is just another piece of software. So if you start thinking about it as just another part of your tech stack, you're going to be able to approach it in a less fearful way. I want to tell you a quick story about implementation gone wrong. Does anyone recognize this particular software system? We're showing our age here. So this is Microsoft Project 2010. Microsoft Project 2010 was a beast of a piece of software. I used to work at a company where we had a PMO, that's a project management office. We also had a software development team. The executives in the company said, okay, we're going to use Microsoft Project. It is going to track our resources, it is going to track our budgets, it is going to track our timelines, it is going to tell us everything we need to know about what is going on with our software development team, which is, as of right now, a big black hole. We don't know what they're doing. I had one of my developers would give me his estimates in Fibonacci sequences. If you know what those are, you know that giving them as estimates is meaningless. So he was like, okay, let me give you t-shirt sizes. And I was like, dude, I just need hours. So what happened here was we were trying to force the development team to use Microsoft Project. They were using ScrumWorks. They were an agile software development team. So the project management office was waterfall. In project management, there's two styles. Waterfall is basically kind of looks like a waterfall. Everything is dependent. So step one, you have to complete before you move on to step two, and it's like a staircase or a waterfall. Agile development is more iterative and circular. So we started to have problems of where what they were doing was never going to align with the software that we were trying to make them use. So what went wrong was a lack of adoption by other teams other than the PMO. We were so hell-bent on thinking that we had the right solution that we never even considered that it was the wrong solution. There was a lack of transparency into resourcing and costs. This mythical, magical piece of software didn't do what we needed it to do, but yet it was really expensive. There was a lack of centralization of projects. So we as the PMO had an understanding of the major projects, but then as you know, within teams, you have other mini projects going on. Those were never captured into the project management system. There was a lack of alignment between teams. There was the cost of using multiple tools. So we were paying for Microsoft Project, they were paying for ScrumWorks. We then found out that the data team was using something else. We then found out that the creative team was using Trello. It was a mess. So then you have the cost of reconciliation. So somebody has to sit there and interview all the people and say, what are the hours? What are the resources? What is the budget? And put it all into one system. And so it ended up in an inability to keep all of the projects on track. And add to that, when all of that happened, they said, you know what's going to help? Put it on SharePoint. Guess who had to learn how to code in SharePoint? 3 times. I rolled it out 3 different times, and 3 different times it failed. I tell you this because I want you to learn from my very, very, very painful, soul-crushing mistakes with SharePoint. So there has to be a better way. That's why you're here. Let's do a digital transformation. How many of you have heard the word digital transformation in the past 18 months, 2 years? Let's just digitally transform. Let's do a digital transformation. It's easy. Poof, transformed. There are problems with a digital transformation. The problems with a traditional digital transformation is that, yes, it is people, process, and technology. However, in digital transformation, it's platform first, people last. I just gave the example where my executives chose Microsoft Project. They said, this is the platform we're going to use, make everybody use it. That's platform first, not taking into consideration there were other things that we had to factor in, our processes, our people. There was no measurement plan. It was either a pass or fail. You either get everybody on board or you don't. So I failed 3 different times. They would gloss over process development in digital transformation. So a big part of what makes something successful is having that repeatable process, doing that process development. And I'll get into why people don't do that, because it's boring. I love it. It's boring. And then a lack of direction. So my direction was, get everybody using Microsoft Project. That's not a direction, that's just an order. So we didn't really stop to take a step back and say, what is it we're actually trying to accomplish? Had we done that, we would have had very different results. So, ta-da, the better way. It looks like a digital transformation. Crap. It's not. It's the 5P framework. The difference here is that it is bookended with purpose and performance. People, process, and platform are squarely in the middle, and platform is the absolute last thing that you need to consider before thinking about choosing anything. You have to get through all of the other steps first, and that's what we're gonna do now, is we're gonna walk through how to set your purpose, how to figure out your people, what is your process, then you can choose your platform, and what is your performance. So, we're gonna start with purpose. Why? Why are we doing this? What is the purpose? You might be thinking, well, it's to use generative AI. No. You're not asking, what is the problem I am solving with AI? What you need to be asking is, what is the problem I am solving? Period. Nothing else. What is the question I am trying to answer? It's a big question, and it's gonna have a lot of layers to it, but the second you introduce generative AI into the problem statement, you've already gone down that road of, okay, we have to use generative AI. I volunteer at a local animal shelter, and the executive director, she's heard about generative AI, she always wants to talk to me about it. I'm just trying to walk dogs and pet puppies, and she's like, Katie, tell me about generative AI. I'm like, oh, but I want to pet this puppy right here. But she was telling me the other day that they've been trying to figure out how to get people, to filter through basically a spreadsheet on their website. She's like, so what do I do with generative AI? And so I didn't walk her through like my whole process, but in my mind, I was like, I think I can get her to a better answer. So I asked her some questions, and it turned out she was looking for a WordPress plugin, not generative AI. But the problem was she was starting with, I'm gonna solve this problem with generative AI. And she was spiraling and wasting time and spending hours trying to find a solution with generative AI before actually realizing what she was trying to do was put a directory on her website. Generative AI had nothing to do with it. The way you get to these purpose statements is with a user story. So I mentioned that I used to manage software development teams. In Agile development, they use user stories. So this is borrowed from Agile development, totally stolen, adapted to be mine, trademarked, there you go. A user story is a simple 3-part sentence. As a persona, I want to, so that. The persona is the audience, the want to is the intention, the so that is the outcome. You'll also see that it maps really cleanly to the 5 Ps. So persona being people, want to being process and platform, and so that being purpose and performance. It's almost like I did that on purpose. The reason I like user stories is because they're not overwhelming. They're very simple, they're very straightforward, and people can wrap their heads around it. So as I was talking to the executive director of the shelter, I was building user stories in my brain. As the executive director, I want to drive people to a certain part of my website so that they can find the information they're looking for. At no point did I list a tool, did I list a piece of software, or did I list generative AI? So what does this look like? How do you get to your why? So a lot of people start very simply, which is a great place to start. So a really good user story, as a CMO, I want to use AI so that our company stays relevant. Okay, I'm starting to understand what it is you're getting at, but let's take it a step further. As a CMO, I want to scale up my content marketing team, that's a little bit more clear, so that we can reach a wider audience with more helpful content. It's better because they're not listing the tool, they're actually setting more of an intention of what the real problem is. But if you push them a little farther and take it a step deeper, you can get to, as a CMO, I want to incorporate tools that will help my content marketing team create more valuable content so that we can reach a wider audience and still create a personalized experience. In that last user story, I have everything I need to go ahead and start solving that problem. Maybe it's with generative AI, maybe it's not. But what we've been able to do is take this person out of thinking that generative AI is the solution and think really deeply, what actually is the problem they're trying to solve? They want to create more content, but they want to create valuable content. They want to reach a wider audience, but they still want it to be personalized. Okay, we can start to break that down and figure out what those solutions are. So that's your why. After you figure out what the problem is you're trying to solve, you actually need to get people involved. 10 times out of 10, the reason things go wrong is because you didn't talk to enough people. You made a unilateral decision, maybe not you, maybe someone else, probably someone else, definitely not you. Made a unilateral decision and said, this is what we're going to do. This is the tool we want to use. This is the solution. This is the direction. But you need more people than that. So you need to assemble your dream team. Think about social media marketing. We've talked a lot about how it's a community. There's more people involved. You're not alone in this. So you would start to create user stories not only for yourself, but for every other person who needs to be involved in this in order to get something out the door and make it a success. So as a social media marketer, I want to sow that. And then you would talk to your graphic designer or whoever it is. As a graphic designer, I want to sow that, and so on and so forth. So as the manager, as a CMO, as an analyst, and most importantly, as a customer, people they think they're thinking about what the customer wants, but they don't actually write it down. So if you write down, as a customer, I want to find really interesting, engaging content so that I can share it with all of my friends and look really super freaking cool. I almost swore. I'm very, very sorry about that. I'm working on it. But the point being is that you need to be doing user stories for anyone you think might be involved. There's a couple of reasons for this. One, we all have different needs. What I need is very different from what Chris is going to need. It's very different from what Anne or Justin or Donna or anyone else in this room is going to need. We may all have the same goal, but the way that we get there is going to be different. And by doing a user story for everyone helps you understand what they need, but helps them also feel heard. And then they're going to take more of a sense of ownership over whatever it is the initiative is, because it's like, oh, you actually asked me what I need? That's amazing. Thank you. This is what I need, so let's see how that factors in. And you may find out that maybe half of that list doesn't need to participate in this particular activity, but then you've done that work with a simple sentence. Process. Everyone's least favorite part. Stay with me on this. There's going to be a happy ending. Process for the sake of process is bad process. People hate to do process because they feel like it slows them down. I just want to get to the thing. I just want to push the button. I want to get to the outcome. I don't remember how I did it. I do it a different way every single time. But then you can't delegate it. You can't grow your team. You can't scale. So we're stuck in this, I want to grow and I want to scale, but I don't want to take the time to write some things down. I almost just swore again. I'm so sorry. I'm very passionate about process. That's what this does to me. It just makes me want to swear my head off. You don't want that. I'm from Boston, you don't want that. So, let's map the process. So I mentioned at the top of this talk that there are 6 classifications of use cases of generative AI. So I've done the work for you. So when you have generation, extraction, summarization, rewriting, classification, question answering, you have to imagine that there's a lot of different tools out there that do all of these different things. So we're not even at the platform yet, but we're already thinking I'm going to have to choose a tool at some point. That's really daunting and overwhelming. So if you have really well-written user stories, it will tell you what tools you want to use. So in the example of generation, as a social media marketer, I want to create variations of social copy so that I can test what works. In that middle part, I want to create. That's telling you that you need a tool that does really good generation. And then you have, as a social media marketer, I want to understand my data so that I can see which social platforms are driving the most traffic. In the want to section, you say, I want to understand my data. That's extraction. So now you're sort of seeing, this is going to tell me I need a tool that's going to do really good extraction. And so on. As a social media marketer, I want to summarize my competitors' posts so that I can know what works. So I want to summarize. It's right there. So you find a tool that does really good summarization. As a social media marketer, okay, first of all, how many of you are given copy that you immediately have to rewrite and you're like, where did this come from? A lot of people. Generative AI is really good at rewriting. We don't use it often enough. So as a social media marketer, I want to rewrite my client's social copy so it aligns with what our audience expects. So again, you're sort of figuring out through the process of doing these simple user stories, very simple by the way, that you can sort of see what tools you're going to use. As a social media marketer, I want to categorize my content. So so I can give it to the right content, so I can give the right content to the right audience segment. So you're going to find a really good tool that does classification. And then lastly, question answering. So as a social media marketer, I want to streamline customer support so I can answer my customers' questions faster and accurately. We don't like to do process development because we feel like it slows us down. But I just went through 6 examples that told you exactly what kind of tool that you are going to need to choose. And I wrote, well, I've been doing this a long time, but I wrote those statements in maybe less than 10 minutes. And at no point did I want to list the tool that I needed to use. I wanted those statements to tell me, to dictate to me what was going to happen. All right, so ready for the big enchilada. The software, the tools, the platform, the magic. There's a lot of tools out there, I'm not going to lie to you. It's overwhelming. And to have a comprehensive list of all of the different tools that do all of the different things right now is nearly impossible. Even the very, very small list that I'm about to give you is already out of date. Because I put this together last week, I updated it a couple of days ago, it is already out of date. This is a big reason why this is so overwhelming. And so being prepared is going to help you not be so overwhelmed. So if you have not started with any sort of generative AI, this is where you want to start. These are the most user-friendly, accessible tools, low cost. This is the perfect set of tools for this particular audience because they will do a lot of the things that we have covered, and they're not going to cost you an arm and a leg. So ChatGPT, Google Gemini, formerly Bard, I only learned this the other day, they just changed their name. Why? Because they're Google, they do that. And then this slide is out of date because this should just say Microsoft, which now includes Copilot. At the time, it was just Bing. So it's sort of the Microsoft suite of things. Microsoft notoriously is bad at product marketing. They're this, they're that, the other thing. They just do the thing. Whatever. We just have to go with it. What does this look like as social media marketers when we actually start to use these tools? So I took some of the user stories and I plugged them in. So this is Google Gemini. As a social media manager, I want to create a series of short social media posts to promote our deals on snacks for the football game. I was writing this during the Super Bowl. Create 10 versions of posts for Instagram with suggested images. And it did just that. It was not the strongest possible prompt that I could have given it, but it was a really great start when I'm sitting there going, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't even know where I want to go with this. Let me get some ideas. And it did that. I also plugged the exact same thing into ChatGPT and got very similar results. And I was like, okay, this is great. Now I have almost like an assistant who's kind of doing these things for me because I have an idea of what I need to do. I need to generate content, so I'm using the content generation tools in generative AI. And then I said, hey, ChatGPT, what else can you do? As a social media marketer, I want to analyze my competitors' data so that I can find out what their top performing posts are, and I can kind of do the same thing with mine. I'm totally just going to borrow their ideas, totally give them credit, definitely not. And so I put that prompt in, gave it a CSV file, and it gave me, based on the data, here's what your competitors are doing, here's what's working. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. I can take this to my boss and say, hey, I came up with this really great strategy all on my own, no help from anyone else, I'm just super smart, give me more money. And they totally did. And then you have Microsoft Bing Image Creator. Prompts work a little bit differently, but we unfortunately don't have time to get into that. Happy to answer those questions after. So the prompt was, create an image on game day of game day snacks to share on Instagram. Can you guys see what I did wrong here with this prompt? I said to share on Instagram in the prompt. So what it did was it took that information and said, oh, I need to be showing someone sharing it on Instagram in the photo. Yeah, these smart tools aren't super smart yet, they're getting there. You as the human still have to figure out a lot of this, but this is what it's capable of doing once you know what you want to do. This overwhelming slide goes through the 6 classifications of use cases for generative AI, along with some, not all of the available tools that you could be using. I didn't want to cover all of these because it is super overwhelming, and you may not need all of these, and you really have to go through your user stories to figure out what is it that I need to do. And I will say, even this list is probably out of date. You can find this on our website at trustinsights.ai. There will be links at the end of the presentation. We have this as a free resource for you. No download. You can get this. All of the links work. We try to keep it update every month. It's a lot of information. We'll do the work for you. So, you know your why. You know your people. You have your process. You've chosen a platform. We have to measure success. So, how do we know that we were successful? It's actually pretty easy. We go back to the purpose. Did we answer the question? We go back to the people. Are the right people involved? We look at the process. Is everyone on the same page about how we're going to execute this thing? Is it repeatable? Is it scalable? And then we look at the platforms last. Did the tool you chose do what you wanted it to do? That is your measure of success. If you don't do the first 4 steps, you won't know if you were successful. And then it was sort of a waste of your time, and you don't have to tell your boss that. Just skip over that part. If you want to look at these platforms as you're measuring success side by side, there is actually a really interesting website called Chatbot Arena, aka Thunderdome. You can choose different models. So what I did here, same examples I gave before of Google Gemini, ChatGPT, and you put them side by side and you give them the exact same prompt, and it will give you whatever results it's going to give it. And so you, as you're assessing tools, can say, yes, this is the tool for me, or no, this is not doing what I want. It has a whole list of other Anthropic Claude, all other tools that you can sort of test out and play with. This is a really good place to start. So this seems really straightforward, right? Yeah. Right, thank you. Yes, it does. Why don't we do this? If it's so easy, why don't we do this?
You don't have time to think.
Because it's the worst. Planning is the worst. Writing things down is the absolute worst thing. So this is the happy story that I promised I was going to tell you. So as I mentioned, my co-founder is Chris Penn. Mr. I hate process, Mr. I hate documentation, Mr. I just want to push the button, Mr. on my grave it will say, what did this button do? True story. And so we don't do this because we hate it. I was going to try to list the actual literal million reasons I have gotten for not doing this, but I figured we only had so much time and you guys were going to want to get to lunch. But these are some of the common excuses of why we don't do this. No one reads the documentation anyway. I read it. Documentation takes too long. No, it doesn't. Documentation isn't agile. It totally can be. User stories are agile, literally borrowed from agile. No one asked me. That's a good one. Ask people. Stakeholders don't know what they want. That is 100% true. But if you present them with a user story, you give them something to react to, they're like, oh, I definitely don't want that. Oh, I definitely don't want that. I know what I don't want. And you can start to narrow it down. There's no instant gratification. I can't help you with that one. But I will get you to the solution faster. My boss is breathing down my neck to do something. Throw a user story at them. Give them a curveball. Give them something not even related. And then go do the process documentation. Lack of institutional knowledge. This one is actually a very large problem. With so much turnover in companies, especially the larger the company, it's hard to find out who knows what. And so taking a step back, taking a deep breath, doing some user stories, going through the 5 Ps will help you figure out, we have a huge gap in people, or we have a huge gap in process. We cannot start investing $20,000 a month in this piece of software if nobody knows how to use it. And yet, people do. I'll get to that in a second. We have more important things to do. More important than making sure you're not wasting money in your business? Okay, tell me what they are. And then there are too many people involved. That's where user stories are really going to start to narrow it down. Like, okay, Chris, you gave me a user story. Aliens invading the planet and taking over has nothing to do with us choosing, a generative AI tool, so you're going to sit this one out. Thanks for that. How many of you have been faced with a single view of the customer? A CDP, Customer Data Platform? It's this mythical creature that is meant to take all of your data from all of the different corners of the world, pull it into one unified place, magically clean it up, and say, this is exactly what Ann Hanley is doing today. You can go ahead and target her with all of your ads for exactly what she wants right now. I apologize if you work in the CDP space, all lies. I have a client who has been trying to stand up a CDP for over 3 years. So far, they have invested $2 million, probably more, only $2 million that I am aware of, probably more than that. They have also brought in more than 40 employees. I would say 39 of those employees have either left or been fired. They have brought in numerous consultants, ourselves included. They have brought in numerous vendors, and nobody knows when this thing is going to be done. The boss keeps asking, where's my CDP? When am I going to get it? Where's my single view of the customer? Because they didn't go through any sort of process to get documentation. They said, we need a CDP. We need a single view of the customer. Very similar to, we need to add generative AI to everything. We need to start using generative AI. Everybody's using generative AI. My daughter's using generative AI. I need to be using generative AI. What happens is that you get stuck in this cycle of nobody being able to finish the project because nobody knows what the thing is. So for them, they're an enterprise-sized company. They don't know where all of their data lives. Every time we have a new conversation, oh, I have a different instance of Salesforce. Oh, really? Because those other teams have their own instances of Salesforce. What data do you have? That would probably be helpful for this one single view of the customer. Oh, hey, I'm using Google Analytics. Oh, we're using Adobe Analytics. Okay, so now you have to bring all of that in. Nobody knows. They already chose their platform. Nobody knows what system the CDP will integrate with. They failed to think about the fact that it's not a one and done. You don't just add your data one time and then have all of it. It has to be a constant flow of information. Same thing is true with generative AI. Generative AI has to learn from what you're doing. You can build custom GPT models. You can build things on your own, but you have to have a constant stream of data going into it. No one knows how they're going to get the data out. So once the data goes in, they don't know how to get it out. That's a big problem. The same is true of generative AI. You have to know how to get the data out once you've put it in. You have to know what data you're putting in. You can't put in sensitive information if it's a publicly used model. You have to be thinking about these things before you're investing the time and energy and money into these projects. This is my slight, very gentle scare tactic for you. I'm not a very scary person. I'm trying. Don't do it. No one knows what they're going to do with this data. They have this mythical, magical idea of we're going to have a single view of the customer. We're going to be able to target Anne whenever she's ready to, go buy something. But they don't actually know that that's true. They're thinking that maybe that would be cool. But that's what the executives are thinking. Nobody actually asked the marketing team, hey, once you have this data, what do you want to do with it? What can you do with it? What capabilities do you have? What other things you're already working on that are going to have to get bumped to do this thing with a single view of the customer? No one knows what the maintenance plan is. They don't know how they're going to keep filling the thing with data. And more importantly, nobody knows if this platform is compliant with privacy regulations. Cookieless future. First-party data, second-party data, third-party data. None of it's been discussed. Generative AI is very much the same way. You need to know what data you're putting into it. If you open up ChatGPT right now and try to start doing a financial analysis on your company, bad idea. Don't do that. There are a lot of things that you need to think about first with your documentation to say, I want to make sure I'm protecting my information. That's going to help you choose tools that will protect your information. So don't just choose a tool, put your data in and go, oopsie, because we'll all be able to see it. I will actively go looking for your data if you put it in there. That is a promise. What my client is doing is a masterclass in what not to do with choosing a platform and choosing generative AI and choosing a piece of software, in integrating a new tech into your stack, into your company where everybody is already busy, working on a million things, overwhelmed. Don't give me one more thing to do. Okay, it's generative AI. Don't pick the system before defining your purpose, people, and process. Alliteration is hard. Don't have an unclear purpose. Don't say, I want to solve a problem with generative AI. Be very clear on what the problem is you're trying to solve. Do some user stories. Hopefully, I've shown you that they're actually really straightforward. Simple sentence, as a persona, I want to, so that. If you do nothing else but that, you're already starting to set yourself up for success because you look at it and go, huh, okay, this is telling me a lot. Now I need to dig deeper. Let me bring this to someone else. What do they think about it? And it starts these conversations where you can actually thoughtfully pick out things for your business that aren't going to cost you $1 million. Or they might. That might be the direction you're going in. That's your choice. I don't have $1 million. I would like that. No other platforms considered. In the example of the CDP and Microsoft project, no other platforms were considered. They were just convinced that this was the thing. My executive director of the shelter was convinced that generative AI was going to solve her website problem. It did not. It has nothing to do with the problem she was trying to solve. But they were convinced that this was the thing that I had to do. My favorite, large meetings that cover technical specifications that nobody understands. Love them. Everybody sits there going, okay, so this is a GPT-2/4 version 5, and it's going to build a thing and make a cup of coffee, and I don't know. You're losing people. That's not where you need to be spending your time. If you get the user stories right, you will know who needs to be included in that conversation, and then you can just not have to have everybody and their mother in the room, 20 people trying to wrangle them. Can you hear me? Did you hang up? Sorry, I called back in. Like, don't do that. Please don't do that. Having the wrong people in the conversation. A lot of executives, I'm an executive myself, and I'm the first one to call myself out, think they have to be included in the conversation. If they're not the ones doing the thing, they probably don't need to be in the weeds with you. They're going to tell you they do, but they don't. Having a user story, and I'm making this sound a lot easier than it is, not all of us are self-aware, having user stories in your arsenal can help you say, this is what we're doing, this is full transparency, I don't think you need to be involved in this because this is exactly the plan. You can go play on SpaceX or whatever the heck it is you're doing today. You don't need to be involved in the weeds with this stuff because we got it covered. And then lastly, just the basic requirements. Please do basic requirements. And so now, with 3 minutes left, you're ready. I'm going to send you out into the world to get started. So brace yourself, a recap is coming. Clarify your purpose, bring in your people, define your process, choose your platform, and check on your performance. 5 things. If you do those 5 things, I promise you, and you can reach out to me because I'm going to hold myself accountable. I promise you, you will start to choose the right things for your business. You will start to make better decisions. Do a user story. Just try it out. It's pretty straightforward. Long-term planning is better than short-term decisions. So as we started, a lot of companies are making like knee-jerk, I'm going to lay everybody off because generative AI is going to do the thing for me. That I guarantee, again, I will make you another promise right here on this stage, that will not work out for them in the long run. Audit your existing systems and processes. You may find that you already have things that are going to solve the problems, but until you do the work, you won't know. Generative AI might be the solution, but it might not be. Assess the overall data quality and availability. These systems do not work without having good data. You have to have data governance. There's another thing that people hate. You have to have data quality. You have to have good data coming in and out. All of that has to happen first, and that comes with doing the requirements. Evaluate whether or not you should buy or build. You may have people on your team who are happy to just code all day long and set up a large language model for you. Or you may be like me, that could be your personal hell, and you're like, just give me something off the shelf. You need to figure those things out based on your resources. Ensure that AI capabilities align with the business offerings. One of the things we didn't cover is how you need to be transparent with your use of AI. Your customers will know, your customers will want to know. They may not do anything differently, but it's continuing to build that trust with your audience of this, hey, this is what we're doing. And if it doesn't align with what your business is doing, generative AI may not be the solution. So this is something, again, to go back to your decision maker and say, hey, let's just gut check this for a second. And then have a plan to communicate it with your customers, with your internal teams, with your vendors, with your stakeholders. Let people know what you're doing. It doesn't need to be a black box. And so with that, you can go to lunch. So I will be outside.